What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Where Is. I hope you all are doing amazing today. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has tuned into my podcast. I really appreciate it. Of course, I have another case for you guys today, so let's just jump right into it. Today, we will be discussing the disappearance of Sophie Reeder. Sophie Elizabeth Reeder was born on February 19th in 2002 to her parents Nicole Twist and her father Patrick Reeder. She lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and was just 15 years old when she went missing on the night of May 20th in 2017. So her parents described her as being a sweet girl who was introverted when she was around new people, but very outgoing around her friends. Her mother says that she loved music and listened to all genres from Tupac to Nirvana, and she says that she was really into Lana Del Rey at the time. Now, prior to her disappearance, Sophie was living with her father Patrick. At the time, her parents were divorced, and she would often hang out around the area of Stranahan High School, which is where she attended school for a short period of time, and she would use the bus to get around. Now, Sophie was eventually enrolled into a virtual school after she was diagnosed with a mental illness. So she started taking her classes online, which means she was obviously going to have more time on her hands to browse and be on the internet. Now, just less than a week before her disappearance, Sophie had spent Mother's Day with her mother, Nicole. Nicole says that they had gone out to eat and did some shopping at the mall, and then she had dropped Sophie off at her dad's house, and unfortunately, that was the last time that Nicole had seen Sophie. So the night before her disappearance on May 19th, Sophie was at her house with her father Patrick. It was about 12:30 a.m. and Patrick says that Sophie was just pacing back and forth throughout the house. So he told Sophie, it's time to go to bed, and I don't believe we know why or what was keeping Sophie up that night, but she was clearly anxious about something. The next morning, Sophie's dad goes into her room and discovers that Sophie is not there. So while he was in her room, he saw a candle that was burning, along with her computer that was sitting on her bed, but no Sophie. Now, Patrick also noticed that the calendar that Sophie had hanging up on her wall had the date of May 19th that was marked out with an X, which is again the day before her disappearance. So, with all of this being said, we would assume that Sophie did most likely plan on returning home. Most of us probably wouldn't leave a candle burning, and there was also a bag that was sitting near her bed that had $300 inside, which again are signs that Sophie was most likely planning on returning home. Now, Sophie had actually run away before. It was for about a day, but it's unclear as to if she was actually running away or if she was just going for a walk. Now, Sophie did go on frequent walks, so this was not an uncommon thing for Sophie, but it's still unknown as to where she was actually going that night. Now, her father Patrick initially thought that Sophie was just at a friend's house or went to go visit her mother, so he called around to a couple of Sophie's friends and reached out to her mother Nicole to see if she was there, but no one had seen or heard from Sophie, and that is when Patrick filed a missing persons report. Once Nicole had discovered that Sophie was missing, she decided to look in her room to see if there was anything that could possibly lead them to where Sophie could be. She says that while looking through her room, a few items stood out like stockings and garter belts, as well as alcohol and drugs. She says that she couldn't believe that Sophie would even think to bring those things into her home, but she believes that it was the crowd that Sophie had been hanging out with, along with her having so much time to be on the computer. Sophie possibly talking to predators online could have led to her going missing. So, investigators began to work on Sophie's case and they discovered neighborhood surveillance camera footage that shows Sophie walking by herself down the street, headed east on Davie Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale on the early morning of May 20th in 2019. In the surveillance footage, Sophie can be seen wearing a faux fur, greenish toned coat with a black dress underneath, sneakers, and white headphones. Detectives were able to use cell tower records as well as Sophie's Google account locations to map out the route she had taken. Now, Sophie actually had two phones, and the last ping was at Southwest 11th Court, so both phones were most likely just turned off. I doubt both of her phones would have died around the same time. Now, Detective Jennifer St. Jean, who was working the case, stated that one of their theories as to what possibly could have happened to Sophie is human trafficking. Now, they do know that there were a few different websites that Sophie was on that were adult in nature and that she could have had contact with older men, which again, unfortunately, could have possibly gotten her into human trafficking. Now, detectives believe that before her phone signal dropped, Sophie was in contact with two men that stayed in the neighborhood where she was seen on surveillance footage. Now, these two men, investigators believed at the time, were involved in illegal activity, so could she have met the two men possibly online maybe? Now, about 2 months after her disappearance, police were able to get a search warrant at a home near Stranahan High School where Sophie once attended before taking her classes online. Investigators dusted the house for fingerprints and questioned 3 men that were in the home at the time, but no arrests were ever made. However, the police were able to seize 25 cell phones, 2 computer towers, ammunition, as well as a pair of headphones, which, if you recall, Sophie was wearing white headphones when she went missing. However, police haven't stated whether or not any of the items that they seized were in fact Sophie's, but investigators do believe that Sophie could have been being held against her will. Now, that is all of the evidence regarding Sophie's case. One of the main theories that stands out is that Sophie could have fallen victim to trafficking. Again, we know that Sophie would go on adult websites. Police say that Sophie would get online looking for possible sugar daddies, and this could have put her in a dangerous situation. Detective Jennifer says that trafficking is very widespread in South Florida and that it's easy to get tangled into and not even realize that you're in it at first until you're so deep into it that you have no idea how to even get out. It's so sad to even think about because you know what she could possibly be going through every day, but there's no way of finding or getting in contact with her. Now, there is something interesting that happened. Back in 2018, Sophie's mother Nicole found a picture of Sophie online and it possibly could have been taken after she disappeared. She showed the photo to police, but there hasn't been any other information as to when the photo was actually taken. Now, Sophie's case was closed, but just last year, Fort Lauderdale investigators reopened the case and they actually released new surveillance footage of Sophie. In this new surveillance footage, Sophie can be seen walking through a Fort Lauderdale neighborhood, again near Stranahan High School, walking alone while wearing white headphones. Police are hoping that this footage could maybe jog someone's memory of possibly seeing Sophie that night and where she possibly could have been headed to. Over the years, people are still putting up flyers of Sophie, hoping someone will remember her face and possibly have some answers as to where she could possibly be. Her mother, Nicole, says that she misses her every day and just wants her daughter home.
I'd like to say to Sophie that no matter what has happened, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what you're going through, if you are still able to come home, we love you. We'll take care of you. I miss her. I miss her so much. I miss her every day.
I want to see her. I just want to talk to her, say I love you again.
If you have any information, you can contact the Fort Lauderdale Police Department at 954-828-5534. Again, Sophie was just 15 years old at the time of her disappearance. She was 5 feet in height and weighed about 110 to 120 pounds. She is biracial and has brown hair and brown eyes. Again, she was last seen wearing a fur coat, black dress, Converse sneakers, and white headphones. Sophie's parents just want her back home and for her to know that she is truly missed, and I hope we can bring her home together. Well, that is it for me today, you guys. I really hope everyone stays safe. Try not to walk anywhere alone if you don't have to, and try to be more aware of your surroundings. But again, thank you guys, and I will see you in the next one.